Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thanks for tuning back into my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the post spawn. I'm going to go into all kinds of patterns, presentations, baits, different things like that, locations, where to look for fish, what to keep in mind, but also some subcategories. Within the post spawn period, there's little sub patterns or subcategories within that are actually, you could do a video on those sub patterns in and of themselves. So we're going to cover a lot of information. We're going to go across a lot of different baits. So here we go. Let's get right into it. It is April 28th as I make this video. We're moving into May. Most of the country is coming out of the spawning period and moving into the post spawn, and then next of course is the summer type, the early summer type patterns. But for right now, some fish are still spawning. I live around the Lake Fork area. There's still fish on beds up there. So the post spawn period is right here. I mean, where you're coming out of the post spawn or out of the spawn into the post spawn, fish are kind of done with the activity. Some of the males are still up there. Every now and again you'll come across a male and a female, but what you have happening is males are guarding eggs and or fry, and to me that once the actual spawning activity where the fish physically are done with the spawn and they're just trying to wait for those eggs to hatch, that's kind of into the post spawn as we move into the early summer period. When it comes to the post spawn, it's really known for the junk fishing time of year, and that's because fish are anywhere from 0 to say 20 feet of water, depending upon where you are in the country, maybe even deeper. So you have a lot of different things. You got the shad spawn going on, the bluegill beds going on. You've got different things that are going on, and so you could really have a lot of different rods with a lot of different techniques, a lot of baits, presentations, things that go deeper, things that have more subtle action. So I keep my mind open this time of year, just really look at the conditions. The conditions will tell you whether you feel like the fish will be up high in the water column, but take a look at your electronics, make sure that you're looking at those Lowrance units to see where the bait is on the screen, whether it's low in the water column, high in the water column. That'll help you make a selection on some of these baits. The first bait that I think of when I think of post spawn, as you guys know, I love to throw top waters, but when I think of post spawn, a popper. A popper is just a killer. This is a Strike King KVD Splash. This is actually the traditional size, and this is the larger size. The popper is an incredible tool, especially this time of year, because what you'll have is fish are still kind of in and around those spawning areas. So they're either guarding fry, which is fry guarders. That's one of the subcategories within the post-spawn period. And when they're guarding fry, this thing comes chugging along, chug, chug, chug. And it looks like it's going to eat their fry, and those fish are going to protect those fry, and they'll come up and smash that topwater bait. So that's why this bait is so good. The other thing is shad are starting to move shallow. The bait fish are starting to show up in the shallows, bluegill, different things like that. And with that, you have the shad spawn. That's another subcategory that's coming along. And so with the shad spawn, a Poppin type bait can be really good. Some of the lakes, like Lake Fork, you have a lot of cover. Stumps, grass, water willow, gator weed, some types of nondescript other grasses in the lake, and even duckweed. And in that, I still want that Poppin presentation. And so I reach for, this is the KVD Poppin Perch and the Pipsqueak Poppin Perch. These guys, again, have that cupped mouth just like a popper. And so you chug them, pop, 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 pause, pop, pop, pause. And so you can fish these in and around cover because obviously they're a hollow body type bait and the hooks are protected. So you can throw it up there in the cover and you don't have to be too worried about getting hung up like you would with a treble hook. A little key on the presentation when it comes to poppers and even the Poppin perch, different things like that, is most of the time the strikes are going to come while that thing is sitting still. So play around with pauses, play around with retrieve speeds. Kind of be mindful of that while you're fishing these types of baits. Obviously, if I'm fishing a Poppin perch, I'm also going to want to fish my KVD Sexy Frog, my frog type baits. I like these anytime I'm fishing around a lot of cover. You know, the water willow and different stuff like that, and even the gator vine can sometimes get caught on the Poppin, the cupped concave Poppin style face like you have on this Poppin perch. And so I'll go with more traditional frog, which it has that kind of a V or cone-shaped nose. It'll move right through some of that heavier cover, and I can really be more efficient with those types of baits. White can be really good if I feel like they're feeding on bait fish, but kind of keep an open mind. These are probably my star performers. I probably have one other color called Stump Jumper that I really like, but a brown, a white, a black, and then a green pumpkin, and that Stump Jumper is kind of a yellow, kind of a bluegill color. And then we go into, you know, obviously I'm just all about these top waters. Then we go into my other favorite one, and that's a walking style or cigar style bait, like a Sexy Dog Junior and a Sexy Dog. These two baits, obviously one's got 3, that's the Sexy Dog, and the Junior's only got 2 hooks, 2 treble hooks. And these guys are great for covering water. If I feel like fish are, you know, chasing shad, or if the shad spawn's begun, then I'm gonna reach for a Sexy Dog. One of the things that makes this guy great is it looks like it's an evading predator. It's as you walk the dog, as we like to call it, you know, sashaying left, right, that directional change can really get a lot of strikes. And then those rattles and the knockers that are in there can draw fish from a long way. As far as like colors and sizes, I really like more of your opaque colors in more of your more stained water, and then your clear colors in more of your clear water. It's kind of logical type selection process that I go through there. And if the bait fish is small, I'll go with the Junior, and then if the bait fish is a little bit bigger, I'll go with the traditional Sexy Dog. One of the things that I feel like will get you a few more bites this time of year is that feathered treble. Owner makes this feathered treble. I'll put it on the back, and that way this guy will actually, when I'm walking it and I kill it, this feather will kind of come down like a dying bait fish, and sometimes they'll come and grab that feather. There's days when that really works. One of the things that it does do is it with this type of bait, while you're working it back and forth, this guy will actually skate a long distance. Well, this will kind of parachute it a little bit. This will slow it down. It won't really go as far or as fast because that'll slow it down. So the feather can make a big difference. One of my favorite times of the year to throw crankbaits is the post spawn. And that's when I reach for a square bill. A KVD 1.5 Strike King square bill like this can be awesome at catching fish. I've had some of my funnest days on the water in that post spawn period when there's bait fish up shallow. And again, that subcategory of the shad spawn is in effect. And I mean, I've caught catfish on them, lots of largemouth bass, and fish in flats or points and areas in and out of spawning areas, and even main lake primary points and secondary points. The key is find that bait fish, and some days they want that bigger profile, and I'll reach for the 2.5. Some days they want the smaller profile, and I'll go with the 1.5. Another bait that I really just got into and really excited about, a KVD wake bait. That guy, look at the lip on him as opposed to a traditional 2.5. This guy's going to sit up on top of the water and just run right along the surface, and that knocker in there, killer. Draws fish to it. I really like that bait. And there's times when the fish are looking up, feeding up, low light conditions, they'll really get aggressive and come for something on top. There's times when they don't want to come up, and I recognize that. And then I reach for a traditional Series 5, Strike King Series 5 crankbait. This is kind of what we call a medium runner. It's not a square bill, it's got a round bill. This guy's awesome at catching fish in that 5 to 10 feet of water. Sometimes you'll notice that bait's lower in the water column, the fish are a little bit deeper, the Series 5, and if they're even deeper than that, say 10 plus, the Series 5 XD is great because you can see that the bill size, this guy's going to go deeper than the 5. Obviously, I talked about the shad spawn, and probably my favorite bait for the shad spawn, a spinnerbait. A 1/2 ounce double willow, like a white or shad, translucent color, can work really well because it looks just like a pod of shad, maybe not a whole school, but a pod of shad with those double willows flashing and that skirt, the whole thing. If nothing else, this guy's been key at helping me find those shad that are doing the shad spawn thing, because what will happen is they'll come up and try to run into your blades and almost mate with the spinnerbait, and then I'll know I'm in and around the shad, and that's key for other presentations. So sometimes they don't want to eat that spinnerbait, but on the windy days and the low light conditions, that spinnerbait with the shad spawn coming along, especially as we continue to have warmer days and warmer nights as we move in through May. The spinnerbait's going to really be a good one for not only locating them but catching them. Obviously, I love a swim jig, and sometimes that swim jig works extremely well at catching those fish that are on the shad spawn. Sometimes in the vegetation and different things like that, I'll try a couple different trailers, a white one when they're on shad, and then a bluegill one if I feel like they're on bluegill beds, or if I'm running them around areas where they were spawning and there's fry in the water, maybe some eggs. Some fish will get real territorial once that thing starts running through their beds. I love to throw a swim bait, and so I'm going to keep this guy ready, especially with all the bait fish activity like I've been talking about. This is like a 3 3/4 inch striking rage swimmer on a 1/4 ounce head, and just that head like that, just kind of that simple style bait, just swimming through the water, especially if they're keyed on bait fish. Guy's a killer for catching fish almost anytime you put your boat on the water. And if you've checked out my YouTube channel for very long, I love that striking rage swimmer on a owner flashy swimmer. That'll work really well, especially when there's times when the fish want a little bit more flash, a little bit more vibration. That guy can really draw some fish to the swim bait and get them to commit. A couple more baits that I've got to mention. A shaky head. I'm going to put like a 6.5 inch striking finesse worm on a owner Ultrahead Shakey head, or striking's got a great shaky head also. It's kind of more of a ball shape, and it's different in that it's got a collar to Texas rig it on, and the owner one actually has a screw lock. So it's different kind of design, different types of heads, and the shaky head can be great at catching fish that are pulling out from those spawning areas in and around docks, secondary points, primary points, especially when they just don't seem to be real aggressive. Reach for that shaky head. It'll put a lot of fish in the boat. It'll put a lot of fish in the boat anytime. The last thing I'm going to mention, the striking jointed structure head. You know, a lot of guys love to fish a wobble style head like this. The jointed structure head's the same thing, and except it's got more of a conical type shape, and what they call like a viper style head goes in and through cover, especially on the lakes that I have around here where there's standing timber that's fallen over, sunk to the bottom, and different things like that. Some cover, some shallow cover, some rocks, some different shell beds. I've really caught some big fish on this guy over the years, and I'll mate it up with either a striking rage bug or another one that I don't really want to talk about, but I'm gonna, is the striking space monkey. Caught some big ones on this, on that jointed structure head. Again, the post spawn is probably the period where more people talk about what we call junk fishing, and that's because you've got to have a lot of different things and be ready for wherever the fish you might find, wherever you might find the fish and whatever they might respond to. One quick story before I wrap it up: was fishing a local lake here just this past Saturday, and we tried a lot of different things, and we found out that on that particular day the swim jig was what they wanted. And so some days they just want one thing more than the other. So you want to keep an open mind and make sure you're ready for the day. And there's going to be a day when they're going to react better to a certain presentation over another. So that's it for now. If you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you've lasted this long into the video, thank you for watching. Please comment, share. If you like any of this, man, go ahead and hit the like button for me. That's my post-spawn lure selection. These are kind of the baits that I feel like over the years I've caught some fish on, and that could work really well for guys in certain parts of the country. And until next time, thanks for watching, and good fishing.